Hello and welcome to my rules explanations slash playthrough of Pandemic, a cooperative game by Matt Leacock. We briefly talked about co-op games. You might have seen my video on how to play the Dresden Files, which is another co-op game. So I will be playing the role of all four of our scientists trying to stop 4 separate diseases from destroying the world as we know it. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to erase the game in progress because I started to make a video and my phone lost its mind. We're going to go ahead and play with classic game mode and classic roles and events. This is another situation where I haven't gotten the expansions yet just because I haven't played this enough, I think, to warrant getting it. I definitely would recommend it if you're super into the game. Let's say that. Okay. So our team is going to consist of me and Judith and Steven and Rima. All right. We're going to be playing heroic. There's introductory, standard, and heroic. We'll be playing heroic because either we're going to go down in flames or it's going to be amazing. I've played to completion on my phone app. I used to play this a lot on my iPad, but on the phone, I've only played this the once on heroic, and we won on the last turn. It was pretty heroic. I'm not gonna lie. We're not gonna play with info mode because that is what mode I am. I am info mode. So these are, yay! These are a good group of. Yes, this is a good group. I think we're gonna be okay, guys. These are our 4 sort of CDC employees who are going to be working to stop 4 diseases, like I said, from destroying the world. We've got a quarantine specialist, a scientist, a medic, and a dispatcher. And each person, each role, has special abilities that we'll talk about. There are more roles as well that clearly aren't in the game. At the end of this video, we'll talk about the roles that didn't show up in the game and how they would have changed things. They basically, each of them kind of like, either they give you an advantage over the standard rule set of the game, in some way or another. So in classic sort of Pandemic, when you're playing with other people and not just playing by yourself, each person takes on a role, and then you can kind of discuss things and make decisions, or you can have one person quarterback, which is what I will be doing because I'll be playing everybody's role. Now, what this might mean is that we might lose fantastically because I found in co-op games I do better with other people because they mitigate me. I can get very pigeonholy. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to seed the board, and everybody's going to get their cards. So we're going to mix in our epidemics. We'll talk about how the player deck is created in just a minute. Right now we're seeding the board with what our starting diseases are going to be at. Where are our concentrations, our high concentrations of each of the 4 diseases? And each disease is represented by a different color, right? We have a blue disease, which you can see, oh, that's so terrible. Okay, blue disease is up here, yellow disease is down here, we've got the black disease here, and the red disease here. So, oh, that's rough. That's rough. Okay, so the way that we seeded it, there's 2 decks of cards in Pandemic. There's an infection deck, and there is a player deck. The infection deck has a card for each city on the map. And when that card is revealed, typically we will add an infection cube, 1 single cube of the corresponding color to that city. At the beginning of the game, we draw 9 cards, and the first 3 cards we draw, we put 3 cubes in. Then the second 3 cards we draw, we put 2 cubes, and the third, we put 1 cube in each. And that's how you get a variable setup then in the game, which is quite clever and can really change. You're not necessarily always going to be able to do the same moves every game. It's a good time. Okay, so this number here is our infection rate. At the end of each player's turn, we will reveal this many city cards from the top of the infection deck, and we'll place 1 corresponding cube of that color into the city. Now, you'll notice that those 9 cards are in this discard pile. So they won't be coming up again yet. Dun, dun, dun. Now, let's talk about the player deck. The player deck is also consists of 1 card for each city on the map and a series of events that will come up that are one-time use, beneficial to the players, because we're just trying to beat the game here. So how are we going to do that? We are going to try to cure each of these diseases. There are 2 things that we can do with a disease. We can cure it, which means we have collected research about it. We know enough to make a cure, and research comes in the form of corresponding color cards. So, like I said, we have a card for each city on the map. And so, for example, I have Atlanta and Milan. That's 2 of the blue cards. Golly, jeepers. It's okay. It's plugged in. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. I probably should have charged it beforehand. Now you see how I am a very poor planner. Okay, so the completely threw me off. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of research basically against the blue disease right now, Atlanta and Milan. Judith has 2 pieces against the red disease, Manila and Seoul. Steven's got a yellow and a red, and Rima's got a black and one of the event cards. We'll talk about that in more detail later. So one of the actions that you can take is you can cure a disease if you have 5 cards of that color. And what that does is it makes it easier to treat. The second thing we can do, well, let's talk about that. If a disease is untreated, which all of the diseases on the board right now are uncured, right? They're uncured. We don't know, they're all new. Everything's so overwhelming. As an action, we can treat a disease in a city. And what that does is it removes one of the cubes from the city. So if I were to go to San Francisco, as one action, I could treat the disease, which means there then would be 2 cubes in San Francisco. And I could use a second action to treat again, and that would remove 2 cubes. So that's how we can kind of try to keep diseases under control while we're working to find the cure for them. Once a disease is cured, if we take that treat disease action in a city, it will clear all of the cubes from the city, which is pretty cool. If we manage to get all of the cubes of a disease off the board when it is cured, we eradicate the disease, which always reminds me of Kids in the Hall. So we just sort of eradicate it, right? I don't know if anybody else remembers that sketch. Anyway, if it's eradicated, anytime a city with that color comes up in the infection deck, we're not going to place any of those cubies out on the board. Super cool, right? But not a win condition. You don't have to eradicate the diseases to win. You just have to find a cure for all 4 of them. So, how are you going to spend your time? You know, is this going to be something you're going to actively be seeking to eradicate diseases? Or are you going to just be looking to cure them all and to try to win the game? That is the only way to win the game, is to cure all 4 diseases. How do you lose the game? So many ways. Okay, the first way, we run out of cards in the player deck. There are a set number of turns that we will have in the game. This player deck is basically a clock. So if we run out of cards in the player deck, we lose. If one disease, there's a set number of disease cubes. There's 24 cubes for each color. If we are unable to place out cubes of a certain color because we've run out of them in the pool, we lose. Not great. Now, let's talk about how many cubes can be in each city. You'll notice that these cities that have 3 cubies in them are kind of glowing red. They're in danger of outbreaking. 3 is the maximum number of cubes you can have in a city. So if we were to draw the St. Petersburg card, we wouldn't be able to place another one here because it's already at its maximum. So it would outbreak, which means we put a corresponding color cube in each city that is adjacent following these lines. So we put one in Essen, one in Istanbul, and one in, what is that? What is it? Moscow. Moscow. How did I not know that was Moscow? Okay. Excuse me. So that is what we would do. Now, if we had, like here, if we had let's say we had 2 cubes in Chicago and San Francisco, we pulled the San Francisco card, right? San Francisco is going to outbreak to Chicago, LA, Tokyo, and Manila, because these lines are adjacent. So it's going to put blue cubies in all of those. That means we have 3 cubes in Chicago now. So if then Montreal outbreaks, it goes bloom, bloom, bloom. It's going to make Chicago outbreak, bloom, 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 which makes San Francisco outbreak, bloom, bloom, bloom. You'll notice it would go back to Chicago, but we don't get that back and forth between outbreaks. It can only outbreak once. So if that were to happen, we would get multiple outbreaks on a turn. Now up here you'll see we can only have 8 outbreaks in a game. Once we get 8 outbreaks, game over. Game over. No good. Now, this infection rate, you'll see, will go up. What causes that infection rate to go up? Well, you might have noticed that in the beginning of the game, when we were making our player deck, we put some epidemic cards in there. If you're playing easy mode, you're going to play with 4 epidemic cards. Standard mode is 5 epidemic cards. We're big girls. We're going to be playing heroic mode with 6 epidemic cards. So what we do is we take our player deck, we divide it into 6, and we shuffle in an epidemic card into each of those 6 piles. Then we stack those piles on top of each other. So we know that those epidemic cards are coming out. We just don't know when, right? We know roughly there's going to be 1 in each 6th of the deck. It is possible that you could have one that ended up on the bottom of one pile and in another pile it ended up on the top. So you get back-to-back epidemics, and that is not super great. So what do we do in an epidemic? Well, that's how we're going to get these cards back in the mix again. We're not safe just because Lima is over here in the discard pile. No, no, no. When we draw an epidemic card, we're going to pull the bottom card from this infection pile. So it's a fresh city, one whose card we haven't seen yet in the game. We're going to stick 3 cubes in that city. Just boom, epidemic in that city. Oh no. Then we're going to put that card in the discard pile. We're going to shuffle up that discard pile. And we're going to plonk it right back on top of the infection pile. So when we start doing our infection rate again, bloop, bloop, making infections, we're going to see the same cities over and over and over and over again. Each time we access an epidemic card, we're going to move up on the infection rate track. So for the first 2 epidemics, it's not so bad. We're still at a low infection rate of 2. Things really start to amp up, though, after a couple of infections, or a couple of epidemics, and we start getting some outbreaks, and things get rough. So, ways to lose the game. Let's revise. Outbreaks, running out of cubies of one color, running out of the player deck. Ways to win, find cures for all 4 of the diseases. Well, just 1 cure for each of the diseases. Okay, so if we look down here, we see what our possible actions are that we can take. We can move, and the way that we move is we can either, okay, if you look under your picture, you'll see how many action points you have, right? So I have 4 actions that I will be able to take on my turn. Moving to an adjacent city along an adjacency line takes 1 action. So I can move to Chicago for 1 action. I can move to get to Montreal, boom, boom, that would take me 2 actions. Same to get to San Francisco, because we're starting in Atlanta at the CDC, boom, boom, I'm in San Francisco, that's 2 actions. I would have 2 more actions, 2 actions left. I can treat, right? Which, remember, if the disease is uncured, means removing 1 cube from the city. I can build a research lab. You'll see there's 1 already in Atlanta, again, the CDC. This is the only place where we can cure diseases. So, if I had 5 research for blue, I would have to go to a research station and, as an action, cure that disease. And as an action, you can build a research station in a city where you have a card. So I could build a research station in Milan or Atlanta. That's silly, though, because there's already 1 in Atlanta. Now, we also have a finite number of these research stations. We only have 6 total in the game. Now, another way that you can move, you might be thinking, wow, that's really limiting. Like, how are we going to be able to spread out? It's 2018. Don't we have airplanes? We do have airplanes. There's 2 different types of flights you can take. You can take a direct flight, which is using the name of the city on a card. So I could fly to Milan. I would have to discard my Milan card, though. Or I can take a chartered flight. I can fly anywhere I want in the world as long as I have the card for the city I'm currently in. So I could fly from Atlanta wherever I wanted to go. Another method of movement for one, and those are all one action. Another method of movement for one action is I can move between research centers for one action. Now there's only one research center right now, so I'm not going to do that, obviously. But that is an option. So our last action option that we have is share. If we are in a city that has the name of one of our cards, we can give it to somebody else who is in the city with us. And that's how you can share cards. You're basically sharing research, right? So it's a little early yet for me to really be too worried about the logistics of who has which cards, who's collecting what. So the way that a turn works is, so for me right now, I will get 4 actions, I will draw 2 cards from the player deck, and then we will do our infection step. So these 2 cards I draw might be 2 more blue ones. Who's to say? So I like to wait a couple turns before I start formulating who's going to have to go where to do what. Now let's talk a little bit about our players and what their special abilities are. I am the quarantine specialist. Now you might notice that in all the cities adjacent to Atlanta, and including Atlanta, there are these shields. The quarantine specialist protects her city, as well as any adjacent city, from receiving any outbreak or any infection whatsoever. So if we were to reveal the Washington card, we wouldn't place anything here because it's protected by the quarantine specialist. So she's pretty cool. Now we're still pretty early on. Unless she gets an epidemic, I don't think that we're particularly boned. What I want to do is I want to get her, what's happening in Asia? Not much of anything. Okay, well, let's go ahead and we'll move her. So 1 action to go to Chicago. And then we'll do 1 action to go to San Francisco. We'll treat for the 3rd action, and we'll treat again for the 4th action. And now she is protecting Chicago, Los Angeles, Manila, and Tokyo, as well as San Francisco, from getting any QBs in their places. Oh, you know what we didn't look at? What event Rima has. So Rima has the forecast. Let's take a look at what forecast does. Rearrange the top 6 cards of the infection deck. Now, events are not actions. They don't take an action point to play. You can play them whenever you want. You can't play them in the middle of a step, though. So, like, I couldn't, in the middle of my infection step, I couldn't reveal 1 and then do event forecast. That wouldn't work. So what forecast does is it lets you look at the top 6 cards of the infection deck and rearrange them how you want, which is pretty cool. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Well, great. Well, that's what forecast does, and we won't be doing that anymore. Alright, dang it. Well, that's cool. Okay, so let's see what cards we draw. I got another blue card, which is great. And then we drew Milan. We knew this because we just saw those cards. Okay, so now Judith. Judith is pretty cool. Judith is the medic. What the medic does, you might notice here, it says all. When the medic takes a treat disease action, so we'll move up to Montreal. 1, 2. So it's 2 of our action points. We have 2 left. We're going to do the treat action. And watch what happens. Whoa! The medic treats everything. Now, the other special ability of the medic is if a disease is cured, and the medic is in the city that corresponds to that color that's been cured, no new cubies can be placed on it. And just by moving through that city, the medic clears all those cubes off. So the medic, I find, is if you're going to try to eradicate a disease, the medic's a good guy to have around. So for my last action with the medic, I am, where is card? What are Judith's cards? Manila and Soul. I think we're probably going to move over here to try to deal with what's going to be happening over here. So we'll put him in New York. We'll draw 2 cards. Oh no! Dang. Moscow and Epidemic. So our infection rate goes up because of the epidemic. We're going to draw the bottom card from the infection deck, which is Riyadh. So we get 3 in Riyadh. Shuffle up our discard pile, and now we're going to do our infect city step. Dang. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Cool. That's a great way to start. Okay, so Riyadh was where we got our epidemic, and then it was the first card we drew. So it outbroke to Baghdad and Cairo and Karachi, not to Mumbai though, because it's not connected. Oh, that's terrible. Oh my god, that's so bad. Oh my god. Because they're like right next to each other too, and they're gonna, oh, blur. Okay, so Stephen is the scientist. The scientist's special ability is instead of needing 5 cards to cure a disease, she only needs 4. She's got nothing. Oh, this is bad. This is bad, bad, bad. Because she can't, her cards are Johannesburg and Bangkok. So she could go down to Johannesburg, or she could go over to Bangkok. Neither one of those are going to get her into Baghdad or Riyadh. Now, luckily, we've already had the Riyadh card, but we haven't had the Baghdad card yet. And I'm glad we used that forecast right before the epidemic. Oh, dear me. Dear me. Okay. What are we going to do? I guess. What are we looking at? So, Judith has 2 red cards. Alright. Shoot. Okay, we're going to get... I like the scientist to... Oh, okay. Alright. We're going to go to... Johannesburg is... Johannesburg and Bangkok. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bangkok. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're going to go to Johannesburg. Discarding the card for Johannesburg. And then we're going to go 2, 3, and we're going to go to Baghdad. 4. And hope that we do not infect Baghdad. Okay, good. Alright, because now it's Rima's turn. Rima is also one of my favorite characters, the Dispatcher. The Dispatchers, the way that the Dispatcher breaks rules is through movement. The Dispatcher can either, as an action, move another pawn as though it were their own, because, you know, the Dispatcher's like, hey, go over here. Why don't you do this? Or the Dispatcher can move someone to a place where somebody else is, including themselves. So, the Dispatcher is going to fly over here, treat, sure. Oh, you know what? We're going to treat twice, and then we're going to move Judith over here. And Judith's going to treat Riyadh on her next turn. So, I got 2 blue cards. That's cool. You know, Lima, Mumbai. Oh, dang. Okay. Oh, you know what? I should have brought her over. That's okay. Alright. So, she's got 3 blue cards. She's got Baghdad, which is where everybody else is. Dee-doo. She could make it over to London, but I don't feel like that's going to be that beneficial. She could go 1, 2, 3, 4 over to Chennai, We just had Mumbai, though. That's not going to trigger again. Let's go, you know what? Let's just go 1, 2, treat, treat, treat. She gets a blue. Nope. Okay, so now we have to start thinking, yeah, if I move her over there, everything will be fine. We have to start thinking about getting people together. Okay, so come down here, treat. Come up here. Oh, St. Petersburg is going to pop. All right, let's redo this. Just go ahead and go back. Has St. Petersburg come up this turn yet? No. All right, well, that's where you're going, little buddy. Treat. Oh, let's redo all this again. All right, treat here, 1. Move 2, move 3, treat all. All right. Epidemic, oh no. Everybody's getting blue cards. Yay. All right. Steven. What are we going to do with you, Steven? Oh, man. So I'm a little concerned about this, too. Boy, things have really gotten out of hand. Okay, I have Cairo. Judith has Moscow. Rachel has Baghdad and Mumbai. If I can get... Yep. Okay, so I'm going to go 1, 2, treat, treat. And then the dispatcher is going to move the planner over. Oh, no. Epidemic. Not cool. All right, mix them all up. What are we going to do? We got... no! Montreal. Oh, dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Okay. Flip. Okay. Does me have any red cards? No. See, because Steven only needs 1 more red card to cure red. So if I could get Steven and Judith to Manila or Seoul. Manila or Seoul. Seoul's way up there. That's not going to happen. I could get them there. We're going to have to make a... Okay, and I don't have any red. Those are the only red cards out right now. But curing 1 disease is not going to be the worst decision I ever made. Alright. Which one came up already? Riyadh. So we got to worry about Kolkata. Oh, I have the Kolkata card. I'll go to Kolkata. I'll move Judith with me. I have 2 actions left. Let's see. So she'll be able to get... Who has Manila? Judith. So Judith can, on Judith's turn, treat, move, move. And then this guy can move, 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 move. You know what? I could just move her over. God, that's a long time. Is there anywhere else I would rather... Excuse me. The quarantine specialist is going to lose some cards. 1, 2. It doesn't really help anything. Okay, we're just gonna move Steven. No, that's just undoing what I did last time. Steven has to get to Manila. Okay, we'll just move Steven closer to Manila. And then they can treat Jakarta. Okay. This is probably going to be bad. Golly. Ugh. It's not great. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Baghdad and Mumbai. I can't build a thing in either of those places. Okay. Let's just head over this way. Nope. 2, 3, 4. Okay. That's fine, because we're going to... There's a hand limit of 7. So we're just going to get rid of Beijing because we know that Steven is going to get enough cards to cure the red and we don't need to worry about keeping them. So this guy's got Manila. So he's the one we need to get to Manila, but we're going to treat Kolkata, Hong Kong, Manila. Oh, we have 1 action left. Let's go back and treat Hong Kong. And then go to Manila. It's perfect. That's actually really good because he can make a research center with one of those red cards next turn. Alright. Treat, move, move, share, take. So now she has enough cards to cure the disease. Oh my god, are you kidding me? All of that work! Alright, she can make her own research center then. Okay, this guy. Paris, San Francisco, and Washington. Oh, real worried about all this nonsense. Is that all? Does it? And Delhi. Cool. We'll go to Delhi. We'll build a research station. And then we'll go to... I didn't need to do that. That's fine. Because I think... So she's got 4 blue. San Francisco, Paris, Washington. Cool. So I'm going to go to Washington. And then she can get the Washington card next turn. And she can go... Oh, no. Epidemic. Oh, no. Okay, we did just get a new event, which I think we're going to... Oh, my God. We're going to go ahead and play that right now. So our new event is One Quiet Night. Skip the next Infect City step. Well, we're going to go ahead and play that. So we're not going to reveal the top 3 cities. This is still not looking great. Oh, man. This is looking rough. Okay. She's going to go down here. She's going to take Washington. She has too many cards in hand. She's going to go ahead and get rid of LA. 2, 3. At least we'll get to cure 1 disease. And cure it. Yay, we cured the blue disease. It definitely was not as big of a threat as any of these diseases. Okay, well, great. Oh, just please don't infect any more black cities. Please, please, please. No. Okay, oh, God. Nope. Okay. Oh, gosh, just barely. We just barely didn't lose. Man, nothing like just barely. This is terrible. We have 1 black cube. Luckily, I have the Moscow card. So we're going to direct fly to Moscow. Treat that. Kolkata and Riyadh. Riyadh. Kolkata. I can't cure anything else. Flip. This might be the end. Well, let's just oh god. Oh, it makes me sick in my tum-tum. Another epidemic. Okay. Okay. This is rough. Oh, here it comes. Oh god. No! Okay, so we lost on 8 outbreaks occurring, and I'm pretty sure we would have run out of QBs because Riyadh was going to trigger all of these out. Holy moly. Okay, that's fine. So that's how you play Pandemic. That's rough. But you did see we got to, we cured one disease. We were about to cure another disease because Steven had all of the red cards. Oh, God. Great. Wonderful. Okay. So let's go to the main menu. We're going to look at the roles. So contingency planner is not one we had. As an action, they can take an event from the discard pile and set it aside. And it's kind of like, it's the contingency plan. It doesn't count as one of their cards, and he can play it as so do the event again, and then it's removed from the game, so he can't just keep cycling through it, which is pretty cool because you can do each event twice then, which is pretty handy, especially if you make a mistake like I did. We had the dispatcher, we had the medic, the operations expert is interesting. He can either build a research station in the city that he's in without using a city card, which is very handy, or move from a research station to any city by discarding any city card. So he can basically pop around and just build a ton of research centers, stations. Super convenient. Quarantine specialist we had. The researcher can give city cards to another player in the same city without the card having to match the city. So we saw that a little bit with Manila when we were in Manila and the medic and the scientist traded cards. The researcher can just trade with anybody. But it comes from her hand to the other player's hand. She's researching it. Scientist we had. That's it. So those are the ones we didn't have. There are other ones in the expansions, I want to say. Personally, my favorite sort of combination of players is medic, dispatcher, researcher, and the quarantine. Contingency planner is okay. I love the dispatcher. I love the medic. Operations expert is cool. Quarantine specialist is cool. Researcher is cool. Scientist is, they're all cool. They're all helping to save the world. They're super cool. These are the events. We didn't see airlift. You can just move one pawn to any city. It's pretty neat. We briefly saw forecast. Government grant lets you add a research station to any city. That one's handy. One quiet night we saw. Resilient population. You can remove a card from the discard of the infection pile. So we could have, when an epidemic happens, right, you see what the new city is, and as it says here, you can play resilient population between the infect and intensify steps. So you can be like, oh no, I gotta get Riyadh out of there because Riyadh is gonna be the death of me. That's it. That is the base game of Pandemic. Now, if you follow board games at all, you might be aware that there is a legacy version of Pandemic. which allows you to play several games over the course of time, and you can change the board, change the setup, change the way that the game itself works, which is I recommend it. I've only played season 1. I loved it. Super pumped for season 2. But Pandemic's a good game. It's a good game to establish sort of this co-op idea. It's not too heavy in terms of decision making. I don't feel like there's a lot of pressure on anybody in the game. You gotta be careful. It is possible to have a quarterback in the game. Another interesting thing about Pandemic is there are a couple of reskins of it. There's a Cthulhu reskin where you're trying to stop cultists, and instead of epidemics, it's just like, I don't know, big terrifying monsters coming down. I like that one. There is one called Pandemic Iberia, which takes place in Spain, and obviously there's no airplanes because it's sort of like, I want to say it's like Spanish flu times. I know it's not this current century. And you can build railroads. You know how I feel about railroad games, which Pandemic Iberia is not, but you can lay track in that game. And there is one called Rising Tide, Pandemic Rising Tide, which instead of diseases is actually like you're in the Netherlands and the water level is rising up and you're trying to like build dikes and locks to stop that from happening, which I haven't played, but I would because it seems pretty neato. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do with Pandemic. It's a successful game with good reason. I think the mechanics are solid, and it's entertaining, I think, and it can be brutal, as you just saw. And I'm not kidding. Like, not 10 minutes before I made the video, I won a game on Heroic, and it went straight to the old head. I got pretty cocky about it, so I'm glad I lost that one because it brought me back down to earth. Well, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day.